All right, it's episode 6. I am blending into my couch, so I'm going to change my top. I'll be back. That's better. Welcome, episode 6 of The Rundown. I was excited to record this one. It's been a minute since I've done one. I recorded when I got back from Sydney, and it has literally been 2 weeks. So I was craving. I got a lot to talk to you guys about. I was tossing up what to actually do this episode on, and I decided, obviously, but we'll get there in a second. First thing, I wanted to just come out and say it, that I thought I was the biggest athlete ever to go sub 60 in a solo pro. Outlandish statement, yes, but also not that crazy. I'm 100 kilos and 195 centimeters tall. That's pretty fucking big. So I put a video out, and lo and behold, I'm not the biggest. There's a guy from Europe somewhere who's like 196 centimeters tall, or 6'6", so just a bit taller than me, and he's actually 108 kilos. But the guy is very, very big. Genetic freak, or maybe not genetic freak, but regardless, I'm going to claim it in APAC at least, which is cool. You know, I'm happy with that. As for my training as well, this week's week 12, or I think it's either week 12 including races or week 12 excluding race weeks, that I have been back coaching myself. And this week has just been the best week. All of my sessions, I've hit numbers and targets that I haven't hit ever, or at least that I can't remember. And it's been really cool. Like, it's another week. I've already run like 54 kilometers. I'll do another couple Ks tomorrow, which will put me at 58, which is similar to last week. Body's holding up really well. Like, sessions are hard, and sometimes I doubt myself going into them, but then I tick them off. And I not only do what I've written, but I do better than I've written, which is amazing. Like this morning, I had 5 by 6 minutes at threshold, with a 90-second float in between. And I ended up pushing the last one harder than I had written, which was at I program all my runs in kilometers an hour. But for ease of understanding, I'll talk about them in like minutes per K. So my first one was at a 3:38. Then the next three were at 3:32. And then the last one was at a 3:28. Context is, when I first started this session 12 weeks ago, I was doing them at like 3:45. So really pushing that intensity. And I've added an extra set as well, mind you. So like, they are going fantastic. The way I structure my week, Fridays is proper threshold running. So I'm not sitting, at the bottom end of, for me, my threshold zone is 165 to 173. I'm not like flirting with 165 to 168. I'm maybe for the first effort, but then from then on, I'm sitting at like 168 to 172. So I'm in the zone, which is the purpose. Whereas Monday, I'm more flirting with the bottom of threshold. So sitting around 165, maybe 168 by that last 10-minute effort. Whereas Fridays, I'm in it, and it's great. And then I went into a second part, which was a new kind of structure. Usually I do a bunch of different blocks with runs that are like 400 meters, and mixing in movements. Whereas today I went a 1K run, and then I went into a 5-minute EMOM of 15 heavy wall balls with a 30-pound ball. It's like 13.6 kilos. And then another kilometer run, and then I went into another EMOM of walking lunges. And I just tried to do 24 meters as fast as I could. I've also been wearing knee pads for my lunges. I don't film myself wearing them because I film after my session, but I've been wearing them during, and they're actually good. Like, I did those 1K runs with them on, didn't notice them. I was running at 3:32 minutes per K, and they felt fine. But that whole session felt great. It was hard, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't like not finishing it. I was getting through it, and that means I'm going to adapt to it, and I'm going to carry that forward indefinitely, because that's how fitness works. So I think this week's been really cool. Another thing I did was some plyos in my strength session as a bit of a primer. I don't know why, I decided to try something and throw it in, and it actually worked out really well. Like, they felt good. I got to my lifts and my lifts felt strong, and I actually, PB'd. I don't think I PB'd, but I got back to where I was pre-Stockholm and felt really good doing it, which is exciting. So another big tick in the box in terms of strength. It's just been nice, and it's led me to realize, which just kind of ties into this episode, but going back to coaching myself was probably one of the best things I've done. I just think, not because I don't like working with coaches or not because I didn't like my coach, but because it's allowed me to try different things and really be present with what I'm doing and know how it feels so that I can carry that forward and apply that to my athletes and the people that I do coach. Like, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned through coaching, I've actually written a post about this that I'll do at some stage, but one of my biggest lessons I've learned through coaching these last year, is it a year? Maybe it's a year and a half, is don't try and coach what you don't know. Coach what you know and coach it really well, because if you understand something because you've done it, you're going to coach it so much better than if you haven't really done something and you're trying to kind of piece the puzzle together through watching someone else do it. I think you get when I first started out in coaching, I was afraid that I was going to miss opportunity because I didn't think that I would have enough clients. So I was trying to pick up clients left, right, and center. And that means sometimes trying to coach stuff that I didn't fully understand. Coaching people for events that I hadn't necessarily done, or I didn't really understand how to program for. Even just types of training that I didn't fully understand. And you can do it, yes, from a science perspective, but you're never going to be able to relate to the athlete and understand exactly what they're going through. Whereas now I take what I do and what I know and I apply that because I've done it, I know it, I understand it. And if they have questions or they're struggling with it, I'm going to understand where their struggle is coming from, because odds are I've been in it and I get it. Like, if they find a session too hard or they're struggling to kind of get through the whole thing, for example, today's session, if I was one of my athletes and I struggled to get through it all, I would say, well, you're running too hard. You need to pull your paces back, because you should be able to get through it. And if you can't, then you're just running too fast, which is a problem. You need to pull it back and then you'll be okay. So I think coming back to coaching myself has been one of the best decisions I made, because it's just taught me so much more. Down to trying primers or trying different setups for different sessions, different layouts. I'm excited to get beyond Perth so I can try even more things. I think I've realized that I'm only going to need about 8 to 10 weeks before Melbourne High Rocks to really sharpen up High Rocks stuff. Anything before that, I'm going to fill with a different training block that's going to be just a bit of a step away from High Rocks stuff. At the moment, I've got 3 sessions a week where I touch High Rocks specific stuff. I don't need that in. I don't need that frequency. So beyond Perth, I'm going to pull 2 of those out, keep 1 in. I think my Wednesday session, so tempo High Rocks stuff, and then the rest of it, I'm going to fill with some other stuff, right? My Friday session is going to turn into a pure run session. I'm going to do it at a track, and then Monday will stay an interval session. Monday PM, which at the moment is like an aerobic High Rocks session, will probably turn into another strength session potentially, which will give me run and strength on Monday, Tuesday easy, tempo High Rocks and strength on Wednesday, Thursday easy, Friday track session, Saturday whatever. I might even turn Saturday into a big base session because the weather's going to get nicer. So A, running at the track will be sick, and B, rides can come back. Moving on to, I was going to segue it perfectly, but I'm going to ruin the perfect segue by saying I've started acquiring more gym equipment. We just got a second treadmill, not for me to use, but for Amy, and anyone else, I guess, training here. It's less robust than the one I've used. I tried running on it and I could get away with it for an easy run, but if I was doing an interval session on it, that thing would get shaken to pieces. That was a steal. We got it for $375, and it was literally 5 minutes away. So we went and picked that up. I've ordered a stepper, a flat, what is it called? A prone row, prone barbell row. So you lie down on the flat bench, That's a sick machine. I used that when I was in Stockholm, getting one of them. I'm getting a hack squat leg press machine, some 37 kilo dumbbells because I've capped out the dumbbells. At the moment I do a bench press for one of my primary lifts for upper body, just a flat barbell bench, and I want to move that to an incline dumbbell bench. Slight incline, not super incline, but I think that is going to help a little more in terms of strengthening for high rocks. Because if I think of the wall ball, I was doing heavy wall balls this morning with 30-pound ball, which is like 14 kilos, and the throw, I was getting tired, and the throw's kind of upper chest. So I think a slight incline is going to help you get a bit more upper while still getting that press strength, which I think is also important for high rocks. Anyway, moving on to today's topic, right? I've had to put my notes on my phone. I didn't start my timer either. I'm not good at this sometimes, guys. I really try. I try to be seamless and all organized and stuff, but sometimes I'm just not. We don't have printer ink, right? Which is silly, and I'm not ordering it because, that's admin. I don't like doing admin. I still haven't done my taxes. Don't tell the ATO. Anyway, the main thing, right? Today's topic, I want to talk about something that I struggled with for a long time in terms of my training, and it is basically training for where you want to be or where you wish you were versus training for where you actually are. I think a lot of people get caught up in training for the athlete they wish they were, or training out there for where they want to be instead of training for where they're actually at. And it's that discrepancy that sets you back. It slows you down. You do not make the progress that you want to make because you're getting ahead of yourself. You need to bring yourself back to where you're at. That's why we do testing. It's why so many people test and do things like that, because it's raw data that you can't bullshit. And so many of us bullshit where we're at to ourselves, to other people, because we think it's going to make us look better. And, it might. Some people might look at that and think, yeah, you can run faster, sick. But the reality is you're probably not going to get any faster because you're already overreaching. You're stretching yourself so thin to try and get to where you're telling everyone you're at, or where you're telling yourself you're at, that you're not going to be able to adapt. The training's going to burn you out, and you're going to get 3 to 6 months down the track and you're going to be injured or in a hole. And it sucks. Trust me, I've done it multiple times, unfortunately, and it's not the way to train. It's not the way to get better. The way you get better is just be real with yourself. Try and drop the ego. It's so hard because I used to do that. I used to do all these things. Right, I used to care about Strava and what was on Strava. I'd try and make sure my runs were harder than they needed to be. Even my easy runs, I'd make sure they were all under 5-minute pace because I thought it's got to be under 5-minute pace, otherwise it's going to look shit on Strava. But no one cares, dude. If it's not an easy run if it's an easy run and I'm making it harder because I want it to look better on Strava, then all I'm doing is handicapping myself. No one's going to give a shit. Whether it's 5-minute pace, 4:40 pace, 5:15, 5:30, it doesn't affect anyone but myself. So by trying to run that easy run harder, I'm the one who cops the negative side of that. No one else cares. And I think that is an important message that I want to share with you guys who listen to this, because you obviously value the lessons that I've gone through and the things that I can kind of bring to you. It's hard. Right? It's hard. I'm not going to lie. Sorry, my brain's gone all over the place. But it's not a fun thing to do either, because it's really hard. It's harder than it needs to be. Trust me. My training at the moment, I'm doing 12 to 15 hours a week, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But it's easier than I've trained in the past. A lot easier because I'm sticking to what I'm supposed to do. And I'm getting fitter. I'm getting far better results than I have in the past. If I had have been doing what I used to do now in this training block, I guarantee you I wouldn't be sitting here now telling you I'm 12 weeks in feeling better than I've ever felt before. I'd be sitting here saying I've hurt myself, or I'm burnt out, or I can't actually run, or I probably just wouldn't be doing the podcast, to be honest, because I'd be burnt out, right? Whereas I'm not. I feel really good. I'm adapting to my training and I'm ready to fucking rip the tits off Perth, because I'm training for who I am and where I'm at right now. And that is what you need to start doing. I want to talk about why we kind of do it that way sometimes. It's because we all do it. We have this version of ourselves in our head that we wish we were, and we wished we were for other people, for ourselves, whatever. And we want to just be there quicker. We want to rush there. It's the reason so many people fail when they try and, shred up, or they try and follow a meal plan or a training plan or whatever, and they try and make these big changes in their lives, because in their head, they're looking at what they're going to get out of being at that end result, and they're trying to get there as fast as possible. And with training, to try and get there fast as possible, you're going to try and chase numbers that are, slightly ahead of where you're at. And you're going to do that week in, week out. And if you do that too often, if you're doing that, 3 times a week, if I was running harder in all my hard sessions each week, I'd get to the weekend. Firstly, I probably wouldn't be able to run the way I run on a Friday because I'd already be cooked by the time I get there. Secondly, if I do that for 2 weeks, then that Friday session, 2 weeks in, is going to be way worse. And then it's going to happen again in the 3rd week. And then by that 4th week, I'm probably going to be injured. I know there are so many people that hear this, because I was one of them, and they say, I'm just better than you, or I'm just fitter than you, or I'm just built different. That was mine. I'm just built different. You guys can't handle what I do. And you know what? That might be true for some people. Some people are built different, but most people aren't. Most people are built the same. Even those people who are built different, they're not that different. They might be able to handle a little more, but I guarantee you, if they keep pushing those limits too hard, they will end up in the same position. And everyone does it. You see it. I see it happen so much online. You see these people come out flying, right? Week after week, they're doing more and more and more, and they're just, they're blasting it on their social media. They're crushing it. They go out hot, and everyone, you kind of see it. Everyone gets around them, and they're like, "Fuck yeah, let's go! This is crazy." And then you can kind of read it in people. I can read it in people because I was that person. Give them a couple of months and you watch them fade off. You watch them fall out. Stuff starts going wrong. They start getting sick. They start getting injured. Things don't start adding up. And it's sad to see, because I get how it feels. It sucks. And when I was there, my whole personality was my training. So if I couldn't train and I couldn't put things out, I thought people just were going to hate me, because I was like, well, what's the point? What's the point of my existence? If I'm not training, I'm not pushing that envelope, then I'm adding no value. And it's a really hard place to be when you can't do the thing that you think everyone values you for. Fucking sucks. So I think that's where this all kind of starts, is where we get this idea of who we wish we were in our heads, and we want to try and get there faster. And we think to get there faster, we've got to do more and push harder each week. And that's not the case. You've really got to try and take a step back and be realistic with where you're at. If going for an easy run means running a 6:30 pace or a 6-minute pace, then let it be that. And I guarantee you, when you get 6 months in, you're going to be a hell of a lot further ahead than if you were treating that easy run like a battle of the egos and trying to run 5:30s when 5:30 was actually your tempo pace or your threshold pace. On that too, easy runs I think are a hard one, especially when you're just getting into running. My advice to people who just start getting into running is not try to and avoid your heart rate, because sometimes you can get in your head about your heart rate, especially if you're using a wrist sensor on your watch or a Whoop. It's just so inaccurate. Do not go by it. Go by feel. Be honest with yourself and go by feel. And if you're cruising along and you feel pretty good and you can chat, that's easy. That's an easy run. If you're, gasping, that's not an easy run, so slow down. But if you can genuinely cruise, that's easy. Don't worry about what your heart rate's saying. It will stabilize after a few weeks of doing that. But that leads us to part 2, right, of this whole thing, which is ego, right? The old you, ego is attached to every performance. You value yourself, like I said before, based on your performances. And every session, every week, every race, that is basically at the end of every week, you're going to get a report of how good of a person you are. That's what we do to ourselves. It sounds crazy, isn't it? Imagine that. Imagine if I valued every single one of you based off your Strava report at the end of the week. And I look at it, I'm like, oh, this guy did 50 Ks, legend. This guy only did 10. What a loser. Imagine if that's how I judged you. That's outrageous, but that's how we judge ourselves sometimes. That's literally what we do. We look at our training week and we're like, oh, I crushed it. I'm the champion. And then the next week you might have been sick. You might have been really busy with work or whatever, and you didn't get everything done. And you sit and you're like, I'm a loser. I'm a failure. I'm an absolute failure. It's outrageous, but that's what we do. And that's what the ego does to us. And that ego is what is in our ear telling us to push harder and try and take more and more and more because we want to get better. We want to get faster. We want to get fitter. And sometimes you take too much and then you end up injured and you go backwards and you got to start again, which is shit. So don't do that. It's easier said than done, but at least if you're aware of it, then you'll be able to pull yourself up. I wrote here, the wishing feels like ambition, right? And it does, it feels good. You think it's motivation. You feel inspired by it. You're like, yes, I'm going to be like that person up there. I'm going to be like that person. And it feels inspiring. It feels motivational, but it's a trap. It's a trap every time. You may not be at that level yet. Some people's goals are realistic and they're not that crazy and it might work for them. But other people's goals are really grand and massive. Like if I start telling myself I'm going to start running like Hunter, I'm probably not going to be able to run the paces he runs. I'm not going to be able to run the paces he runs, full stop. Maybe for a shorter effort, but I can guarantee that I'm going to fall apart trying to chase that type of training. So I need to be realistic with where I'm at, and means running to my own paces. Same can be said for some of you guys, right? Some of you might see the paces I run and think you want to run these paces, so you're going to start trying to run them. Don't try to run them. That's not going to help you. You need to work out where you actually are, and then you need to put together a plan to get to where you want to be. It's not about jumping ahead. Jumping ahead is the trap, and that is where we all get caught. Try and rush things because our ego tells us we deserve to be there quicker than we are. Bang, injured. I'm going to keep saying injured because that's just what happened to me. And then, like I said, the Strava obsession, right? You care about your average pace. You care about what your pace shows, what time your training time shows, how many hours you've done a week. I used to use Strava for that. I used to use Strava to track hours, and I would share it and I would put it in everyone's face because I thought that's what people wanted to see from me. But it's not what I value, right? For me, it's good information. I track my kilometers in Strava because I like one point or one place where I can go and I can check how many Ks I've done for the week. And I think it's cool watching the graph. Like for me, my obsession at the moment is creating a graph that's like, there's probably a bit of ego about it too, to be honest, but I want to create a graph that's just straight of like running weeks that are in 50 to 60 kilometers. And I'm annoyed because the 2 weeks post race, so like the week after Stockholm and the week after Sydney, there's a massive dip because it's a recovery week. So I'm not going to chase 50 kilometers of running in a recovery week. But like for me, I use it to track my distance now. That's it. I don't care what other people see. I might share it every now and then, but behind it will be a message of like, the reason I was able to do this because I was training for me, where I'm at right now, not because I was trying to chase a version of who I used to be as well, which is what caught me out leading into Melbourne last year. Was I was chasing who I used to be, the paces I used to be able to run at the start of the year when I wasn't carrying hip issues, and then you can't do it forever. It catches up. It sucks when it does. Please pay attention. So I wrote as well, like what it ends up costing, the cost of doing all this is you're just doing the wrong work. You're going to go backwards and you're never actually going to end up where you want to be. That's the cost. You have this idea of where you want to go in your head and you're going to rush to get there, and the result of that is not getting there. I've seen it in these last 12 weeks. I know I'm talking a lot about myself and my training block, but in my head Brisbane, right? I got to come up with a term, BBB, right? Before Brisbane. In my head, I had this idea of who I wanted to be as an athlete, and I was chasing that. And to do that, I thought I had to run paces that I was running 3:45s on the treadmill, and I was stretching to get there. I was clinging on for dear life to get them done. And it was hurting me. It was hurting my hips. But I was just killing myself to get them. And then I would go into some movement stuff afterwards, pretty similar to what I do now. And I was just reaching for paces that I shouldn't have been running at that time. And you know what happened? I would not get through a full set of the movement. Like I might have, a 40 meter sled push or something, and I would like reach to get the run done. I'd come off, I would be fucked. And then I would walk to the sled push and I would just take a rest, which is not the point of the session. The point is to try and move through consistently, but I would be resting because I was overreaching. The irony is those paces that I was reaching for, I was trying to cling to, are paces that I would find easy now because I've gone back. I stepped all the way back past that and started building back up properly. And now it's easy, right? I can move through it consistently and my heart rate probably doesn't even get that high, which is exciting. But the only reason I'm here is because I went back there. And I think that's the message that's going to keep getting brought up through this whole podcast, right? The fix. The purpose of the session is the purpose of the session, right? That's it. That is, if you take any goal into any training session, the purpose of the session is the purpose of the session. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't worry about external stuff. Don't worry about what other people are going to think. If the purpose of your session is an easy run or an easy bike, let it be easy. Who fucking cares what other people think? Right? Odds are they're probably going to burn out if that's their attitude. If they're looking at your easy session and thinking, that's slow, they're the ones with the mindset that is going to get them caught out. You need to just worry about your training and doing your training well and sticking to the purpose of your session, right? For me, Wednesday morning, it is a tempo session. I have a hard heart rate cap of 158 beats per minute. If I hit that heart rate cap, I've got to slow down. Sorry, if I hit it and it goes above it and it stays above it and it doesn't kind of settle, I've got to stop. That's the rule. And I stick to that rule. And you know what that rule allows me to do? Show up Friday and put up a killer performance in my session because Wednesday hasn't taken more from me than I've got. Whereas if I go and push Wednesday and let my heart rate creep up to 160, 165 beats a minute, then I'm getting Friday a bit tired. I'm not able to hit the paces I need to hit to on Friday. So not only am I more tired and taking on more, energy costs, but I'm not getting as much quality as I could be getting out of Friday's session. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys, because if I'm tired, then I'm not running 328s on a Friday. I'm probably going to be running 340s. And that sucks because I'm not getting as much out of that. And it all starts from Wednesday or Tuesday. If I go too hard on my easy session on Tuesday, I'm not going to get to Wednesday good enough to try and hold on to my, the paces I want with the heart rate that I want. And then if I try and push that a little harder because I'm not acknowledging the fact that it's harder to hit my paces and I'm letting my heart rate go above my cap, then I'm going to get to Friday even worse. You know what I mean? So the purpose of the session is the purpose of the session. If it is meant to be easy, let it be easy. If it's meant to be hard, great. Let it be hard. And if it's meant to be a skill session, let it be skilled. You know what I do? Before, I had to explain this to one of my clients, but before a race, if I want to work on skill stuff, I don't dress in my training gear. I might put shoes on, as in like training shoes, but I don't dress in training attire to go and do it because it's not a training session, it's a skill session. So I'll sit there, and what I do specifically for sled pull, because I'm trying to drill a new technique and I want to have it locked up so I don't have to think about it. I'll load the sled so it's heavy enough that I don't fall over, but I don't load it to race weight, and I just roll through, the pulling motion and where I coil the rope, where my hands go, which hand do I reach with first, and which side of my body is that on, and which side do I put the rope down, I just try and take note of those things. And then I'll go to the other side after a rest and I'll sit there and I'll take notes and I'll take time setting myself up. It's a skill session. That's how you need to treat it. You don't need to treat it like a workout. So I think that's probably the biggest key point of all this, right? You've got to look at each session individually and ignore the factors that surround it, like other people and what you think they might think, because odds are no one actually cares. They're all just thinking about themselves. To wrap up then my ego back then caring about what Strava thought. Now Strava's just a tool I use. I don't care what it says. I really only use Strava, A, to track my Ks, and B, to share my workouts, because I feel like people like seeing workouts. I know when I was coming up in the fitness space a few years ago, I used to love seeing guys that were, a few years ahead of me, writing their workouts, doing their training. I used to enjoy seeing their sessions so that I could try and A, recreate, or B, just do them. So I like sharing my sessions for that. I don't encourage people to do my sessions because they're written for me, but if you use them as inspiration, that's great. So I think I know it's easier said than done, but you need to train for who you are as an athlete today. And I promise you that is going to take you further than anything, because I actually spoke about it with my psychologist this morning. If you take I'm trying to think of it. It doesn't make sense. But if you've got I'm trying to use my hands, but I realize you guys are you guys are listening, not always watching. Although most people seem to watch on YouTube, which I find bizarre because I'm just chilling on the couch. At least I'm not wearing a t-shirt that matches the couch. So the analogy I use, right? If you want to get to a certain point as an athlete, right? Just say you want to run a sub 25K. That's your goal. If you go out every week try to run a sub 25K every Saturday, you try and run a sub 25K, you're probably going to get a few weeks down the track, maybe a month or two, and you're going to be hurt, injured, or sick of it. You're going to be sick of doing it. You're not going to go out on that Saturday and you're going to be like, fuck, I just can't mentally do this anymore. It's just so hard. Whereas if you were like, oh, I want to run a sub 25K, okay, you go and run one as hard as you can. Use that data, you break it down, and you say, all right, I'm going to start by doing, 400s at my goal 5K pace. And then those 400s are going to turn into 600s, 800s, kilometer, 1200s, mile efforts. You might do 2K efforts, right? And then what you might do is you might split it. You might do 2.5K with a break in between. And then you'll be like, all right, it's been 8 weeks. I think I might retest my 5K. You go and do a 5K park run. You might get it, you might not, but then you can use that data and go again. I guarantee you are going to get further doing that than going out every week and trying to run a 5K as hard as you can. And that is basically the essence of what I'm trying to get across to you guys today is do not go out chasing this person you want to be or this athlete you want to be every week, because you will not make it. It's sad, but you're not going to get there. You are going to fall short, and it's going to hurt a lot. It's going to hurt your ego, it's going to hurt your pride, and it's probably going to hurt your body. You need to be real with who you are and where you're at as an athlete, and you need to use that information to build the athlete you want to be. Start small, build the base, create a strong framework that's going to allow you to get there and stay there, right? That's the best part about doing it well. If you do this the right way, you get to keep it. You're not going to get injured. You're not going to fall off. You're going to keep what you've built. It's longevity. You're going to keep it, which is exciting. So fuck short term, think long term, and you're going to get what you want. You just got to be smart about it. And, some of you are going to fuck it up, but that's just the case. It's just reality. I can tell you guys everything. I can tell you everything I've learned, all of the stuff, right? And some of you are going to roll your eyes and not listen. Some of you will listen, but you'll still get it wrong. And that's okay. It's all part of it. I've done it all. I think one of the hardest things to do ever is tell someone to do less. So many people aren't receptive to that. They just roll their eyes. They're like, fuck off. I know better than you. Because you know how I know this? Because that was me. I used to tell people to fuck off because I was better than them. And then you know what happened? Should have listened. But I had to learn it the hard way. And now I'm doing what they've done. I'm trying to share that. And if I can just help one or two people realize that the best way about it isn't doing more and pushing themselves harder, it's kind of pulling back and being more steady in their approach, then I win and you win. So that's kind of it. Hey, I don't have much else. Yeah, this one's for the beginners, right? This is what I wrote. This is the whole game. Meet yourself where you are, and you'll actually move forward. Chase where you wish you were, and you'll dig a hole and resent it. Let that sink in for a minute, okay? Like, I am convinced that if I didn't pull myself back after Brisbane, after Brisbane, and really start focusing on where I was actually at as an athlete, like, it helped that I went and got a VO2 max test and lactate threshold test because that gave me data points to start at. But if I didn't do that, there's no way in hell would I be saying sub 60 or any of that stuff. I would have done Brisbane at a 104. I would have gone to Worlds and it would have been a brutal course. And I reckon I would have done a 108 or a 110 because I would have kept going backwards. And then I would have cancelled Sydney. And I don't know what I would be doing now. Or I might be starting now. I might be starting what I should have started or what I did start after Brisbane now. The only reason I am sitting here telling you these things and saying I've had the best week ever in my whole training block is because I've listened to where I needed to be as an athlete. That's it. Before we get into some listener questions, I wanted to just give a shout out to Myprotein, bro. They're like, I know their website sucks in Australia and they don't have the representation at High Rocks races in Australia that you get in Europe. Like, they're the best though. I fucking love them. Like, they are so supportive of me. Or at least, like, the people I speak to are so supportive of me, and I love it. It's the best. They've helped me out with Perth tickets. They've helped me out with Melbourne tickets, and their products are good, man. I use their pre-workout every single day. I have their essential amino acids nearly every day. I've run out, which sucks. So I was going to drink that during this episode, but I can't because I've run out. Always have their creatine. I eat their protein nearly every day. Like, it's one of the most used products in this household. It's the best. So discount ANTH. It is applicable it's worldwide pretty much at this stage, which is cool. Mr. Worldwide. So use it. You get up to 50% off sometimes, which is pretty crazy. Listener questions. So, how do you adjust calorie carb intake on high versus low training days? Now, this one is, it's hard, right? I use the calculation of I think it's 30 to 60 grams of carbs an hour that's a very big difference, but it kind of depends, right? Trial and error is probably the best way to approach it. I found for me, I like a 30 gram carb drink during sessions that are over an hour and intense. Even strength I would class as intense. So I typically, because that's my second session of the day too, I will have 30 grams of carbs during that. But honestly, the basic framework of my meal plan stays the same throughout my whole week. I just add more carbs to training days that are higher. So it's going to be trial and error. You're going to fuck it up and you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm out of energy. Probably not enough, right? You're going to get it right. Or you might be too full. You pull it down. So I think trial and error is the best way to do it. What I've found at the moment, actually shout out to MyFitnessPal as well. But what I've found at the moment, because I'm actively tracking again, and it's been really good. Like anything, once you start taking note of numbers, they just start kind of accumulating. Like for me, it was HRV. I didn't start taking note of what my HRV actually was until 12 months ago. It took me a month to 2 months to start realizing what numbers were good and what numbers were bad. Now I can see my HRV and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm all right. Or I'm not good. And then I just monitor the trends. But you've got to start being aware of it. You've got to start taking note. If you currently track your calories, great, because you've got the data. And now you can adjust things within that data to see what feels good, what feels bad, right? The best thing I did was start tracking. So now I kind of know how I go. It's like some days, honestly, sometimes on my hard days, I do not get the right amount of food in because it's just too hard. I might have something in the middle of the day and it just throws my whole day off, right? But that's okay because I'll probably make it up the next day. But at least having an idea of what you're eating and what you're consuming gives you the ability to manipulate that and try different things. So I think trial and error is the best approach. If you're talking about within sessions, there's plenty of data around, what's ideal. I found I can't take on too many carbs during sessions, and I actually like it to be slow. I was talking to my psychologist about it, and like how sometimes your insulin response when taking a big hit of just sugar before training or during training is like, it can be detrimental to like, I mean, people end up with diabetes and stuff, and I'm very mindful of that. I don't want that to happen to me. So I have a carb drink, or I put a gel in a drink, and I will drink that over the course of 30 to 40 minutes because I don't want to take a straight shot immediately, or I'll have little bits of a gel over the course of the session. So that's how I would approach it. Next question. What's something you used to do in training that you now know you weren't ready for? What did it actually cost you? Ooh, something I used to do in training that I know wasn't ready for. Well, I think I want to give you an exciting answer, not just running harder paces. I think I was just overextending. I think actually, no, I've got a topic for you. It's like running too hard than what you're actually, running harder than the level you're at. And I think this can play into training with other people, specifically if you go to like run clubs or track sessions and stuff with other people. If it's a threshold set, but you're out there chasing the guy who's faster than you, it's not a threshold set for you. Like, I don't care if you're motivated or push harder because you got other people around you. The whole point of your session was for it to be a threshold session. And if you're going out chasing the guy who's ahead of you because you want to run harder, then it's not a threshold session for you. You're not sticking to what you're supposed to, which ruins the purpose of the session. So I think that's probably something I fucked up. And getting caught up in it too. Like, you think, oh yeah, cool, we get to train harder because we're training with other people. Yes, it serves a place and it has a purpose, right? There are sessions that you should do with other people because they're going to push you and make you work harder. But it needs to fall into your week as that. If you're going out and you're running harder in an easy run because you want to run with someone, then it's not an easy run anymore. Or you've got an interval session and you've got tempo paces to hit, but you're running them at threshold because you're chasing someone. It's not a tempo session anymore. You've got to stick to the purpose of the session. And I think that is, something I messed up a lot. A lot of my training was like that. What did you tell yourself to justify for who you wished you were? What was a lie? Well, I would tell myself that I was just better than everyone. I was built different. I am just built different. And that's why I can do more than you. That's what I'd tell myself. And you know where that got me? Injured, burnt out, less fit than I was, and I felt like shit. So don't do that. Don't tell yourself you're built different. Some of you might be, but at the end of the day, not that different. Most of us, if you overtrain and you push yourself harder than you're ready for, you're going to end up in the same spot. And it sucks. So don't do it. But the irony is the people who think that are going to look at this and think the exact same thing. They're going to be like, shut up, mate. I'm built different. So I'll see you in a couple of years. Training from where you are sounds obvious. So why is it hard? What's the ego cost of admitting where you actually are? Well, I think it's actually a really good question. I'm going to read that out again because I didn't make quite much sense of it. Training from where you are sounds obvious. So why is it so hard? What's the ego cost of admitting where you actually are? The ego cost is failure. We're all judging ourselves based on our performance. That's why we end up in these situations. And the cost of the ego, the reason the ego doesn't like that so much is because if you can't hit those paces, or you're not the person who you think you are, or you think others see you as, which is probably one of my issues back then too, you're failing. You're failing, and you think people are looking at you thinking, he's failing, he's not good enough. But no one thinks that. No one's thinking that. Everyone's worried about themselves. So I think that's where you get caught up, or where we all get caught up, is we have this idea of what we see we are, or of who we see ourselves as, and this idea of who we think other people see ourselves as. And then if we're trying to get there but we fall short, then we're like, we failed. Everyone knows we failed. We're not good enough. Shit. And then you spiral. I think that's kind of where the ego plays into it. What does a beginner get right that you'd forgotten how to do? I don't understand, bro. That doesn't make sense. Next. When did you stop caring about what Strava showed? Was there a moment, or did it fade? Honestly, there's been multiple moments where I've toed and froed. I think AB after Brisbane was when I crumbled and gave. No, it was before that. I stopped really caring. I think this year I stopped caring what Strava showed. But it's been a slow process. Like, I was talking to my psychologist about it, and I think it's just been the growth that I've had with her as well. I've moved away from really caring what other people think about me and caring about what other people think of where I'm at. And I'm just focusing on me, like for real this time. I always say it, but there's been times in the past where I've said, yeah, I'm focusing on me, but it's been from a place of, it's been from a different place. Whereas now I just genuinely am. Like, I do nearly all my training by myself because I love it. I love going out there in the shed. It's freezing cold. I train with the birds, the dogs, and I just get my session done. I stick to the plan and I get fitter and I move on. And I actually don't care about anyone else or what anyone else is doing. Like, it's cool to see other people train and see what they're doing and hear the different things they're trying, because some things are nice to try in training. But at the end of the day, I don't care what other people's numbers are because it's not relevant to what I'm doing. It's cool if their numbers are good and they're performing better. That's fun. I like that. I like when people improve, but like, there's no definitive moment from when I started caring about Strava versus when I didn't. I've just kind of grown away from caring about other people's training, full stop, I suppose. What's the difference between ambition and wishing? How do you tell them apart in yourself now? Ooh, I like this one. This is a good question. So I believe the difference between ambition is you have this vision of yourself. I think the difference between ambition and wishing or wishful thinking is a clear path. I have this version of myself in my head at the moment of when I get to Melbourne High Rocks being this freak runner and just going out and running these crazy paces that I've never run before in my life. And I know I'm going to get there. I know I'm going to get that because I understand the path I've got to take is the one I'm on right now. Right? I just got to keep focusing on my running. So I have the vision, the ambition, but I also am, present enough to realize that I'm not there yet. So chasing those paces isn't going to work. What is working is doing the training that I'm doing at the moment and slowly progressing it week to week within, the means of what I can handle. And then I will get to that point, which is exciting. I think, the difference between ambition and wishful thinking is a clear path or a roadmap or a bridge, whatever you want to call it. If you coach someone stuck in the wish gap, what's the first thing you'd make them change? Honestly, the best thing you can do if you're coaching someone who's stuck in that gap is make them do a test or get them to do a High Rocks race. Something where they can't hide from the data. And then it's like, all right, these are your paces. We're going to run to these paces. That's it. It's simple as that. Because there's raw data. They can't lie to themselves. They can't pretend, And then you've just got to make sure they're not overextending during their sessions. You've got to give them pace targets and they got to stick to them. Or heart rate targets and they got to stick to them. If they don't stick to them, then you got to pull them up and you got to tell them. Like, I've got people, I love when my clients ask me questions about their programs because it allows me to explain them properly. Like, if someone asks me, how do I hit a tempo session? I don't know how it's supposed to feel. Then I could get the opportunity to explain to them how it's going to feel. A tempo session is like, honestly, it's kind of hard when you're in it because it's a bit of an inconvenience, but then you stop and you're like, cool, I feel pretty good. Whereas threshold is, that uncomfortable, not really comfortable. You finish and you're like, fuck, I'm actually a little bit tired. That was hard, but I still feel all right. And then VO2 is, I am fucked. They're the difference. At least that's how I describe them. What would you say to the version of you that was cooking himself chasing numbers? I'd sit him down and be like, mate, trust me, I'm you in the future. We are fit as fuck. The way we get here is not by doing this. Pull back. Let's start from where you're actually at and let's build there. Trust me. I'd be like, I'll make you a weapon. And by making him a weapon, I'd make me a weapon because technically that's in the past and this is in the future. Sometimes I do regret that too. I regret not having this realization earlier because I would be far further ahead. But at the same time, I probably wasn't ready at that time to get that knowledge. You know what I mean? It's like we're not ready for time travel just yet. When we are ready, we'll get it. Honestly, I think that's it, right? There was plenty in that. It was actually probably one of the biggest knowledge drops ever. Please like if you made it this far. Leave a comment. I don't know if you want to. I try to, when I watch people's YouTube stuff or Strava, Spotify, just like it at least. That would be great. It'll help the episode do well. This is a really valuable one, right? So please try and take something from it. Otherwise, that is all. I'll see you guys in the next episode. A peace out.